Great news, cartoon and football fans. My new book, Fashion Girl 3.0, is now on sale. Look for it on Amazon, iTunes, Barnes & Noble's website, and other sites where books are sold. At the end of this video, I will give you a brief description of this new book.
The story you're about to see is a big, fat lie. No names have been changed to protect anybody.
Now in its 44th year in operation, combining cartoons and football together since 1981. This is America's first and foremost fantasy football league. We are the USCFL, the United States Cartoon Football League.
Let's get ready to rumble!
And now, the USCFL Network, in association with YouTube, presents the USCFL Postgame Show. Here's once again is Robbie Graham.
Greetings, cartoon and football fans. This is Robbie Graham of the USCFL Network welcoming you to the quarterfinals, along with the action and highlights of Week 13 of the USCFL's 2024 season. If you're joining us for the first time, may we extend to you a cordial welcome, and we hope you'll enjoy everything this channel has to offer. We also invite you to take a moment to subscribe to this channel and join our team. We strive to be one of YouTube's least offensive channels by providing a different spin about your favorite cartoon characters from the past and present that doesn't reflect on their true legacies. If your favorite character or characters aren't mentioned in our videos, please leave a comment and we will answer your questions. Also be sure to ring the bell to alert you of when we put up any new videos. The USCFL is on Patreon, and you can help support us for as low as $3 a month to as much as $5 a month, which averages out to 10 to 17 cents a day. In time, we can offer merchandise and other perks to help show your love for America's oldest fantasy football league. This is the playoff stage in the USCFL. 8 teams down, 8 teams left. Now the question is, who will go on to the semifinals and who won't? Real quickly, I apologize for the delay in making of this video. There was a power outage in my area last week, and it somehow caused my laptop to lose Wi-Fi capability. I had my service provider come out and fix the problem, and that's why this video is late this week. And I apologize also for the tardiness of some other videos that occurred during the season that did not air on Sunday afternoons. And again, I offer my apologies for that. In 1 minute, one of the questions will be answered as we will talk about and present the highlights of Game 25 between the Disney All-Stars and the Dick All-Stars from Las Vegas.
Flat, broken, busted. It just don't seem fair. The man in heaven don't hear my prayer, and these dice are loaded, but I still can't win. Flat, broken, busted, crapped out again. Maybe tomorrow I'll see the light, and I'll know the difference between wrong and right. My ship is out there, but it can't come in. I'm flat, broken, busted.
Welcome back. In the first playoff game ever played in Las Vegas, the Disney All-Stars and the Dick All-Stars were both looking to advance to the semifinals. After Disney's unbelievable win over Filmation last week, and Dick's impressive win against Cartoon Network was thought to have played a game that could end with a stunning finish. But the outcome was anything but exciting. The first quarter belonged to Disney, as Anna from the movie Frozen intercepted a Sonic the Hedgehog pass for a pick six from 71 yards out to go up 7-0. Less than 2 minutes later, Mickey Mouse threw a 27-yard touchdown pass to Elsa, also from Frozen, to go up 14-0. More than 5 minutes later, Mickey threw his second touchdown pass to Kim Possible from 6 yards out to take a commanding 21-0 lead. Ariel ended the quarter with a field goal as Disney was up 24-0. Disney continued the onslaught as Buzz Lightyear started the second quarter with a 7-yard touchdown run to extend the lead 31-0. Dick finally got on the board with a Monty field goal to trail 31-3. Less than 5 minutes later, Buzz Lightyear got his second touchdown run from 2 yards out to go up 38-3. Monty's second field goal ended the first half as Dick trailed 38-6. Disney continued to dominate in the third quarter as Mickey threw his third touchdown pass and second to Kim Possible from 65 yards out to extend the lead 45-6. Less than 2 minutes later, Mickey's fourth touchdown pass to Jessie from Toy Story from 32 yards out, Disney went up 52-6. Dick finally got a touchdown as Sonic threw a 14-yard touchdown pass to Guy of Captain Planet to trail 52-13. Less than 45 seconds later, Mickey threw his fifth touchdown pass and third to Kim Possible from 83 yards out as Disney led 59-13. Buzz Lightyear's third touchdown run from 1 yard out as Disney led 66-13 at the end of the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, Dick shut out Disney, but to no avail. Sonic's second touchdown pass to Guy from 5 yards out as Dick trailed 66-20. Monty's third field goal midway through the quarter just wasn't enough as Disney won 66-23, the first 60-plus point game of the season. Disney will advance to the semifinals with no doubt having the number 1 seed, while Dick cracked out of the tournament and finishes in 8th place. As for the stats in this game, beginning with Disney, Mickey Mouse finished 26 of 38 for 524 yards and 5 touchdowns. Buzz Lightyear rushed for 173 yards on 37 carries and 3 touchdowns. Kim Possible led the receivers as she caught 6 passes for 231 yards and 3 touchdowns. Timon of the Lion King led the defense with 4 tackles and 5 assists. Anna, the player of the game, had 1 tackle, 3 assists, and 2 interceptions, and the pick 6 she had in the first quarter. Ariel finished with 12 points. For Dick, Sonic finished 25 of 48 for 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Archie Andrews rushed for 81 yards on 24 carries. Dennis the Menace led the receivers as he caught 5 passes for 105 yards. Heathcliff led the defense with 12 tackles and 5 assists. Monty finished with 11 points. And here's the highlights of this game, courtesy of EA Sports.
I'm a scat man. I'm a scat Everybody stutters one way or the other, so check out my message to you. As a matter of fact, I don't let nothing hold you back. If the scat man can do it, so can you. Everybody's saying that the scat man stutters but doesn't never stutter when he sings. But what you don't know, I'm gonna tell you right now that the stutter and the scat is the same thing. Yo, I'm the scat man. Where's the scat man? I'm the scat man. Why should we be pleasing any politician reason who would try to cheat the seasons if they could? The state of the condition insults my intuition and it only makes me crazy and hard like wood. Everybody stutters one way or the other, so check out my message to you. As a matter of fact, don't let nothing hold you back. If the scat man can do it, brother, so can you. I'm the scat man. Where's the scat man? I'm a scat man. Repeat after me. It's a Scooby-Dooby melody. I'm the scat man. Sing along with me. It's a Scooby-Dooby melody. Yeah, I'm a scat man. I'm a scat man. I'm the scat man. I'm the scat man. Everybody stutters one way or the other, so check out my message to you. As a matter of fact, I don't let nothing hold you back. If the scat man can do it, so can you. I hear you all ask about the meaning of scat. Well, I'm the professor, and all I can tell you is while you're still sleeping, the saints are still weeping, because things you call dead haven't yet had the chance to be born. I'm the scat man. Where's the scat man? I'm a scat man. Repeat after me. It's a Scooby-Dooby melody. I'm the scat man. Sing along with me. It's a Scooby-Dooby melody. Yeah, I'm a scat man. I'm a scat
I also apologize for the shouts you saw in that video, for I had to use my cell phone to record the scores as it happened during that game to tell my friends about the stats and the scores in that game. So once again, I apologize. In 1 minute, we will talk about and present the highlights of Game 26 between Team Canada and the DC Comics All-Stars from Kansas City. Welcome back. In Kansas City, the DC Comics All-Stars took on Team Canada to join Disney in the semifinals. DC Comics has had a history of making it to the playoffs, but fail in the quarterfinals. As for Team Canada, they're looking to go back to the Disney Bowl for the first time since their championship run in 2021. Before we go to the description of the game, there was a discrepancy of how the game scoring went, but the outcome of the game wasn't affected. In the first quarter, Robin began the scoring with a 1-yard touchdown run as DC Comics went up 7-0. Team Canada tied the game as Izzy threw a 69-yard touchdown pass to Jude Lazowski of 16. Batgirl ended the quarter with a field goal as DC Comics was up 10-7. Early in the second quarter, Izzy threw her second touchdown pass to Gwen to go up 14-10. Here's where the discrepancy happened, and it will be included in the highlight reel. According to the stat sheet, Izzy threw her third touchdown pass to Lashana with under 8 minutes left, but the ball was placed on the 1-yard line. Jonesy Garcia put up a field goal to go up 17-10, and that's how the scoring happened. Jonesy's second field goal under the 2-minute warning gave Team Canada a 20-10 lead. With 49 seconds left, Wonder Woman threw a 50-yard touchdown pass to the Flash to trail 20-17. Team Canada ended the first half with Izzy's third official touchdown pass and second to Jude Lazowski to give them a 27-17 lead at halftime. The only score of the third quarter was Izzy's fourth official touchdown pass and second to Gwen as Team Canada led 34-17. In the fourth quarter, Batgirl's second field goal helped DC Comics to trail 34-20 with over 14 minutes left. 4 minutes later, Jonesy Garcia's third field goal put Team Canada up 37-20. Less than 2 minutes later, Robin scored his second touchdown run from 2 yards out to trail 37-27. More than 2 minutes later, Wonder Woman threw her second touchdown pass to Zatanna to trail 37-34 as DC Comics could have ended up tying or even winning the game. But Team Canada held on as Harold ran in from 3 yards out to go up 44-34 with over 3 minutes left. Jonesy's pair of field goals in the final 2 minutes gave Team Canada a 50-34 win. Team Canada will go on to the semifinals while DC Comics' playoff troubles continues and finishes in 7th place. As for the stats in this game, beginning with Team Canada, Izzy, the player of the game, finished 27 of 44 for 482 yards, 4 official touchdowns, and 1 interception. Harold rushed for 149 yards on 30 carries and 1 touchdown. Jude Lazowski led the receivers as he caught 8 passes for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jen Masterson, also of 16, led the defense with 7 tackles and 3 assists. Jonesy Garcia finished with 20 points. For DC Comics, Wonder Woman finished 32 of 60 for 517 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Robin rushed for 112 yards on 27 carries and 2 touchdowns. The Huntress led the receivers as she caught 8 passes for 176 yards. Catwoman led the defense with 6 tackles and 4 assists. Batgirl finished with 10 points. And here's the highlights of this game, courtesy of EA Sports. In 1 minute, we will continue our series of player profiles with a character that really needs no introduction. If it weren't for him, the superhero genre might not exist today, as we will profile the Man of Steel himself, Superman.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman! The Adventures of Superman. When the planet Krypton, home of a race of supermen, exploded into dust, the sole survivor was an infant boy who had been shot to earth in a sealed rocket. Today, that boy grown to manhood is known as Superman, sworn enemy of the forces of evil. To aid him in his never-ending fight for truth and justice, he masquerades as Clark Kent, crime reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper. His secret is carefully guarded. No one is aware that Kent is Superman. No one but you. Join with us now on ABC.
Welcome back. Newspapers, radio, television, comic books, movies, and merchandise. Since this week's player we're profiling was created in the early 1930s, literally hundreds of heroes and heroines have come along since then. The player we're profiling is the one, the only, and the original superhero, and perhaps the greatest of all time. We are profiling Superman, and if it weren't for him, the superhero genre, as we know it, might not exist today.
Superman is a superhero who appears in American comic books published by DC Comics. The character was created by writer Jerry Siegel and artist Joe Shuster and debuted in the comic book Action Comics number 1, cover dated June 1938 and published April 18, 1938. Superman has been adapted to a number of other media, which includes radio serials, novels, films, television shows, theater, and video games. Superman was born on the fictional planet Krypton with the birth name of Kal-El. As a baby, his parents sent him to Earth in a small spaceship shortly before Krypton was destroyed in a natural cataclysm. His ship landed in the American countryside near the fictional town of Smallville, Kansas. He was found and adopted by farmers Jonathan and Martha Kent, who named him Clark Kent. Clark began developing various superhuman abilities, such as incredible strength and impervious skin. His adoptive parents advised him to use his powers for the benefit of humanity, and he decided to fight crime as a vigilante. To protect his personal life, he changes into a colorful costume and uses the alias Superman when fighting crime. Clark resides in the fictional American city of Metropolis, where he works as a journalist for the Daily Planet. Superman's supporting characters include his love interest and fellow journalist Lois Lane, Daily Planet photographer Jimmy Olsen, and editor-in-chief Perry White, and his enemies include Brainiac, General Zod, and archenemy Lex Luthor. Superman is the archetype of the superhero. He wears an outlandish costume, uses a codename, and fights evil with the aid of extraordinary abilities. Although there are earlier characters who arguably fit this definition, it was Superman who popularized the superhero genre and established its conventions. He was the best-selling superhero in American comic books up until the 1980s. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster met in 1932 while attending Glenville High School in Cleveland and bonded over their admiration of fiction. Siegel aspired to become a writer and Shuster aspired to become an illustrator. Siegel wrote amateur science fiction stories, which he self-published as a magazine called Science Fiction, the advance guard of future civilization. His friend Shuster often provided illustrations for his work. In January 1933, Siegel published a short story in his magazine titled The Reign of the Superman. The titular character is a homeless man named Bill Dunn who is tricked by an evil scientist into consuming an experimental drug. The drug gives Dunn the powers of mind reading, mind control, and clairvoyance. He uses these powers maliciously for profit and amusement, but then the drug wears off, leaving him a powerless vagrant again. Shuster provided illustrations, depicting Dunn as a bald man. Siegel and Shuster shifted to making comic strips, with a focus on adventure and comedy. They wanted to become syndicated newspaper strip authors, so they showed their ideas to various newspaper editors. However, the newspaper editors told them that their ideas were insufficiently sensational. If they wanted to make a successful comic strip, it had to be something more sensational than anything else on the market. This prompted Siegel to revisit Superman as a comic strip character. Siegel modified Superman's powers to make him even more sensational. Like Bill Dunn, the second prototype of Superman is given powers against his will by an unscrupulous scientist, but instead of psychic abilities, he acquires superhuman strength and bulletproof skin. Additionally, this new Superman was a crime-fighting hero instead of a villain, because Siegel noted that comic strips with heroic protagonists tended to be more successful. In later years, Siegel once recalled that this Superman wore a bat-like cape in some panels, but typically he and Schuster agreed there was no costume yet, and there is none apparent in the surviving artwork. Siegel and Schuster showed this second concept of Superman to Consolidated Book Publishers, based in Chicago. In May 1933, Consolidated had published a proto-comic book titled Detective Dan, Secret Operative 48. It contained all original stories as opposed to reprints of newspaper strips, which was a novelty at the time. Siegel and Schuster put together a comic book in a similar format called The Superman. A delegation from Consolidated visited Cleveland that summer on a business trip, and Siegel and Schuster took the opportunity to present their work in person. Although Consolidated expressed interest, they later pulled out of the comics business without ever offering a book deal because the sales of Detective Dan were disappointing. Siegel believed publishers kept rejecting them because he and Schuster were young and unknown, so he looked for an established artist to replace Schuster. When Siegel told Schuster what he was doing, Schuster reacted by burning their rejected Superman comic, sparing only the cover. They continued collaborating on other projects, but for the time being Schuster was through with Superman. Siegel wrote to numerous artists. The first response came in July 1933 from Leo Omialia, who drew the Fu Manchu strip for the Bell Syndicate. In the script that Siegel sent to Omialia, Superman's origin story changes. He is a scientist adventurer from the far future when humanity has naturally evolved superpowers. Just before the Earth explodes, he escapes in a time machine to the modern era, whereupon he immediately begins using his superpowers to fight crime. Omialia produced a few strips and showed them to his newspaper syndicate, but they were rejected. Omialia did not send to Siegel any copies of his strips, and they have been lost. In June 1934, Siegel found another partner, an artist in Chicago named Russell Keaton. Keaton drew the Buck Rogers and Sky Roads comic strips. In the script that Siegel sent Keaton in June, Superman's origin story further evolved. In the distant future, when Earth is on the verge of exploding due to giant cataclysms, the last surviving man sends his 3-year-old son back in time to the year 1935. The time machine appears on a road where it is discovered by motorists Sam and Molly Kent. They leave the boy in an orphanage, but the staff struggle to control him because he has superhuman strength and impenetrable skin. The Kents adopt the boy and name him Clark and teach him that he must use his fantastic natural gifts for the benefit of humanity. In November, Siegel sent Keaton an extension of his script, an adventure where Superman foils a conspiracy to kidnap a star football player. The extended script mentions that Clark puts on a special uniform when assuming the identity of Superman, but it is not described. Keaton produced 2 weeks' worth of strips based on Siegel's script. In November, Keaton showed his strips to a newspaper syndicate, but they too were rejected, and he abandoned the project. Siegel and Schuster reconciled and resumed developing Superman together. The character became an alien from the planet Krypton. Schuster designed the now familiar costume, tights with an S on the chest, overshorts, and a cape. They made Clark Kent a journalist who pretends to be timid, and conceived his colleague Lois Lane, who is attracted to the bold and mighty Superman but does not realize that he and Kent are the same person. In June 1935, Siegel and Schuster finally found work with National Allied Publications, a comic magazine publishing company in New York owned by Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson. Wheeler Nicholson published 2 of their strips in New Fun Comics No. 6, 1935, Henri Duval and Dr. Occult. Siegel and Schuster also showed him Superman and asked him to market Superman to the newspapers on their behalf. In October, Wheeler Nicholson offered to publish Superman in one of his own magazines. Siegel and Schuster refused his offer because Wheeler Nicholson had demonstrated himself to be an irresponsible businessman. He had been slow to respond to their letters and had not paid them for their work in New Fun Comics number 6. They chose to keep marketing Superman to newspaper syndicates themselves. Despite the erratic pay, Siegel and Schuster kept working for Wheeler Nicholson because he was the only publisher who was buying their work, and over the years they produced other adventure strips for his magazines. Wheeler Nicholson's financial difficulties continued to mount. In 1936, he formed a joint corporation with Harry Dunenfeld and Jack Leibovitz called Detective Comics Incorporated in order to release his third magazine, which was titled Detective Comics. Siegel and Schuster produced stories for Detective Comics too, such as Slam Bradley. Wheeler Nicholson fell into deep debt to Dunenfeld and Leibovitz, and in early January 1938, Dunenfeld and Leibovitz petitioned Wheeler Nicholson's company into bankruptcy and seized it. In early December 1937, Siegel visited Leibovitz in New York, and Leibovitz asked Siegel to produce some comics for an upcoming comic anthology magazine called Action Comics. Siegel proposed some new stories, but not Superman. Siegel and Schuster were, at the time, negotiating a deal with the McClure newspaper syndicate for Superman. In early January 1938, Siegel had a three-way telephone conversation with Leibovitz and an employee of McClure named Max Gaines. Gaines informed Siegel that McClure had rejected Superman, and asked if he could forward their Superman strips to Leibovitz so that Leibovitz could consider them for Action Comics. Siegel agreed. Leibovitz and his colleagues were impressed by the strips, and they asked Siegel and Schuster to develop the strips into 13 pages for Action Comics. Having grown tired of rejections, Siegel and Schuster accepted the offer. At least now they would see Superman published. Siegel and Schuster submitted their work in late February and were paid $130, equivalent to $2,814 in 2023, for their work, $10 per page. In early March they signed a contract at Leibovitz's request in which they gave away the copyright for Superman to Detective Comics Incorporated. This was normal practice in the business, and Siegel and Schuster had given away the copyrights to their previous works as well. The duo's revised version of Superman appeared in the first issue of Action Comics, which was published on April 18, 1938. The issue was a huge success thanks to Superman's feature. Siegel and Schuster read pulp science fiction and adventure magazines, and many stories featured characters with fantastical abilities such as telepathy, clairvoyance, and superhuman strength. One character in particular was John Carter of Mars from the novels by Edgar Rice Burroughs. John Carter is a human who was transported to Mars, where the lower gravity makes him stronger than the natives and allows him to leap great distances. Another influence was Philip Wiley's 1930 novel Gladiator, featuring a protagonist named Hugo Danner who had similar powers. Superman's stance and devil-may-care attitude were influenced by the characters of Douglas Fairbanks, who starred in adventure films such as The Mark of Zorro and Robin Hood. The name of Superman's home city, Metropolis, was taken from the 1927 film of the same name. Popeye cartoons were also an influence. Clark Kent's harmless facade and dual identity were inspired by the protagonists of such movies as Don Diego de la Vega in The Mark of Zorro and Sir Percy Blakeney in The Scarlet Pimpernel. Siegel thought this would make for interesting dramatic contrast and good humor. Another inspiration was slapstick comedian Harold Lloyd. The archetypal Lloyd character was a mild-mannered man who finds himself abused by bullies but later in the story snaps and fights back furiously. Kent is a journalist because Siegel often imagined himself becoming one after leaving school. The love triangle between Lois Lane, Clark, and Superman was inspired by Siegel's own awkwardness with girls. The pair collected comic strips in their youth, with a favorite being Winsor McKay's fantastical Little Nemo. Schuster remarked on the artists who played an important part in the development of his own style. Alex Raymond and Bern Hogarth were my idols, also Milt Caniff, Hal Foster, and Roy Crane. Schuster taught himself to draw by tracing over the art in the strips and magazines they collected. As a boy, Schuster was interested in fitness culture and a fan of strongmen such as Sigmund Breitbart and Joseph Greenstein. He collected fitness magazines and manuals and used their photographs as visual references for his art. The visual design of Superman came from multiple influences. The tight-fitting suit and shorts were inspired by the costumes of wrestlers, boxers, and strongmen. In early concept art, Schuster gave Superman laced sandals like those of strongmen and classical heroes, but these were eventually changed to red boots. The costumes of Douglas Fairbanks were also an influence. The emblem on his chest was inspired by heraldic crests. Many pulp action heroes such as swashbucklers wore capes. Superman's face was based on Johnny Weissmuller with touches derived from the comic strip character Dick Tracy and from the work of cartoonist Roy Crane. The word Superman was commonly used in the 1920s and 1930s to describe men of great ability, most often athletes and politicians. It occasionally appeared in pulp fiction stories as well, such as The Superman of Dr. Jukes. It is unclear whether Siegel and Schuster were influenced by Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch. They never acknowledged as much. In the earlier decades of Superman comics, artists were expected to conform to a certain house style. Joe Shuster defined the aesthetic style of Superman in the 1940s. After Shuster left National, Wayne Boring succeeded him as the principal artist on Superman comic books. He redrew Superman taller and more detailed. Around 1955, Kurt Swan in turn succeeded Boring. The 1980s saw a boom in the diversity of comic book art, and now there is no single house style in Superman comics. The first adaptation of Superman beyond comic books was a radio show, The Adventures of Superman, which ran from 1940 to 1951 for 2,088 episodes, most of which were aimed at children. The episodes were initially 15 minutes long, but after 1949 they were lengthened to 30 minutes. Most episodes were done live. Bud Collyer was the voice actor for Superman in most episodes. The show was produced by Robert Maxwell and Alan Duchovny, who were employees of Superman Incorporated and Detective Comics Incorporated respectively. Paramount Pictures released a series of Superman theatrical animated shorts between 1941 and 1943. 17 episodes in total were made, each 8 to 10 minutes long. The first 9 films were produced by Fleischer Studios and the next films were produced by Famous Studios. Bud Collyer provided the voice of Superman. The first episode had a production budget of $50,000 with the remaining episodes at $30,000 each, equivalent to $621,000 in 2023, which was exceptionally lavish for the time. $9,000 to $15,000 was more typical for animated shorts. Joe Shuster provided model sheets for the characters, so the visuals resembled the contemporary comic book aesthetic. The first live-action adaptation of Superman was a movie serial released in 1948, targeted at children. Kirk Alyn became the first actor to portray the hero on screen. The production cost up to $325,000, equivalent to $4,121,000 in 2023. It was the most profitable movie serial in movie history. A sequel serial, Atom Man vs. Superman, was released in 1950. For flying scenes, Superman was hand-drawn in animated form, composited onto live-action footage. The first feature film was Superman and the Mole Men, a 58-minute B-movie released in 1951, produced on an estimated budget of $30,000, equivalent to $352,000 in 2023. It starred George Reeves as Superman and was intended to promote the subsequent television series. The first big-budget movie was Superman in 1978, starring Christopher Reeve and produced by Alexander and Ilya Sokhind. It was 143 minutes long and was made on a budget of $55 million, equivalent to $257 million in 2023. It is the most successful Superman feature film to date in terms of box office revenue adjusted for inflation. The soundtrack was composed by John Williams and was nominated for an Academy Award. Superman, 1978, was the first big-budget superhero movie, and its success arguably paved the way for later superhero movies like Batman, 1989, and Spider-Man, 2002. The 1978 film spawned 3 sequels: Superman 2, 1980, Superman 3, 1983, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, 1987. In 2006, Superman Returns was released, designed after the 1978 to 1987 film series. Superman was portrayed by Brandon Routh, who later reprised his role in the Arrowverse crossover Crisis on Infinite Earths, 2019 to 2020. Superman has appeared in a series of direct-to-video animated films produced by Warner Bros. Animation called DC Universe Animated Original Movies, beginning with Superman, Doomsday in 2007. Many of these movies are adaptations of popular comic book stories. Superman appeared in the theatrical animated feature film Teen Titans Go! To the Movies, 2018, voiced by Nicolas Cage. Superman appeared in the theatrical animated feature film DC League of Super Pets, 2022, voiced by John Krasinski. In 2013, Man of Steel was released by Warner Brothers as a reboot of the film series, starring Henry Cavill as Superman. A sequel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, 2016, featured Superman alongside Batman and Wonder Woman, making it the first theatrical film in which Superman appeared alongside other superheroes from the DC universe. Cavill reprised his role in Justice League, 2017, and its director's cut, 2021. This version of Superman also makes cameos in Shazam! 2019, and in the first season finale of the TV series Peacemaker, 2022, but portrayed by stand-ins for Cavill. Cavill makes an uncredited cameo appearance as Superman in the mid-credits scene of the film Black Adam, 2022. Nicolas Cage makes a cameo appearance as an alternate version of Superman in the film The Flash, 2023, Cage shooting his scenes through volumetric capture, before he was de-aged with computer-generated imagery, CGI. Cavill, George Reeves, and Christopher Reeve also cameo as their respective versions of Superman through the use of CGI representing their likenesses, Cavill having filmed additional scenes as the character for the film which were removed during post-production. Adventures of Superman, which aired from 1952 to 1958, was the first television series based on a superhero. It starred George Reeves as Superman. Whereas the radio serial was aimed at children, this television show was aimed at a general audience, although children made up the majority of viewers. Robert Maxwell, who produced the radio serial, was the producer for the first season. For the second season, Maxwell was replaced with Whitney Ellsworth. Ellsworth toned down the violence of the show to make it more suitable for children, though he still aimed for a general audience. This show was extremely popular in Japan, where it achieved an audience share rating of 74.2% in 1958. His first animated television series was The New Adventures of Superman, which aired from 1966 to 1970. The show also featured a 7-minute part focused on Superboy named The Adventures of Superboy. Starting in 1974, Superman was one of the leading characters in the Hanna-Barbera-produced animated series Super Friends and all its sequels until 1986. To celebrate his 50th anniversary, Ruby Spears produced an animated series partially based on Superman, 1978, and post-crisis Superman comics created by John Byrne. The model sheets for Superman, 1988, were drawn by legendary comics artist Gil Kane, and most of the episodes were written by comics writer Marv Wolfman. Superboy aired from 1988 to 1992. It was produced by Alexander and Ilya Sokine, the same men who had produced the Superman films starring Christopher Reeve. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman aired from 1993 to 1997. This show was aimed at adults and focused on the relationship between Clark Kent and Lois Lane as much as Superman's heroics. Dean Cain played Superman, and Terry Hatcher played Lois. Smallville aired from 2001 to 2011. The show was targeted at young adults. Played by Tom Welling, the series covered Clark Kent's life prior to becoming Superman, spanning 10 years from his high school years in Smallville to his early life in Metropolis. Although Clark engages in heroics, he does not wear a costume, nor does he call himself Superboy. Rather, he relies on misdirection and his blinding speed to avoid being recognized. Later seasons find him becoming a public hero called the Red Blue Blur, eventually shortened to the Blur, in a proto-Justice League before taking on the mantle of Superman. Superman, the animated series, with the voice of Tim Daly as the adult character, aired from 1996 to 2000. After the show's conclusion, this version of Superman appeared in the sequel shows Batman Beyond, voiced by Christopher McDonald, aired from 1999 to 2001 in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, voiced by George Newbern, which ran from 2001 to 2006. All of these shows were produced by Bruce Timm. This was the most successful and longest-running animated version of Superman. In the Arrowverse, the main Superman, played by Tyler Hoechlin, appears as a guest star in several television series, Supergirl, The Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. A Supergirl spin-off, Superman and Lois, premiered on February 23, 2021. Superman appears as an ensemble character in the animated show Justice League Action. He also appears as a guest character in other animated shows such as Batman, The Brave and the Bold, and Harley Quinn. DC Comics trademarked the Superman chest logo in August 1938. Jack Leibovitz established Superman Incorporated in October 1939 to develop the franchise beyond the comic books. Superman Incorporated merged with DC Comics in October 1946. After DC Comics merged with Warner Communications in 1967, licensing for Superman was handled by the Licensing Corporation of America. The licensing letter, an American market research firm, estimated that Superman licensed merchandise made $634 million in sales globally in 2018. 43.3% of this revenue came from the North American market. For comparison, in the same year, Spider-Man merchandise made $1.075 billion and Star Wars merchandise made $1.923 billion globally. The earliest paraphernalia appeared in 1939, a button proclaiming membership in the Supermen of America Club. The first toy was a wooden doll in 1939 made by the Ideal Novelty and Toy Company. Superman No. 5, May 1940, carried an advertisement for a crypto-ray gun, which was a gun-shaped device that could project images on a wall. The majority of Superman merchandise is targeted at children, but since the 1970s, adults have been increasingly targeted because the comic book readership has gotten older. During World War II, Superman was used to support the war effort. Action Comics and Superman carried messages urging readers to buy war bonds and participate in scrap drives. Other superheroes became patriots who went to fight: Batman, Wonder Woman, and Captain America. As for his time in the USCFL, Superman along with the rest of the DC Comics All-Stars joined the league in 2006. Although he's on the offensive line, he takes snaps under center to Wonder Woman, and he along with the rest of the offensive line, which includes Green Arrow, Batman, Green Lantern, and Shazam, Superman is tasked to help keep Wonder Woman from getting sacked in the backfield or to allow Robin or Supergirl to run up the middle for first downs. The following video is already on this channel and shows Superman from various ages of television, animation, and the movies, including meeting Lucille Ricardo. No matter how you grew up with him, Superman is the driving force for all of the superhero genre, and other such heroes may not have existed without him.
The Adventures of Superman. Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman. Strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
Well, I took a walk around the world to ease my troubled mind. I left my body lying somewhere in the sands of time. But I watched the world float to the dark side of the moon. I feel there's nothing I can do. I watched the world float to the dark side of the moon. After all, I knew it had to be something to do with you. I really don't mind what happens now and then, as long as you'll be my friend at the end. If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side with my superhuman might, kryptonite. night, all the times I never let you down. You stumbled in and bumped your head. If not for me, then you'd be dead. I picked you up, put you back on solid ground. If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side with my superhuman might, kryptonite. If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side with my superhuman mind, kryptonite. Yeah! If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side with my superhuman might, kryptonite.
How do you do? My name is Superman.
Oh, boy, am I glad to see you. Tell me, when you're flying around, do you have cape trouble?
No, but then I've had a lot more flying time than you have.
Oh.
Lucy, what are you doing out there?
I'm fixing the brake pipe. It's a little loose.
Are you precious? And what are you doing in that outfit?
Well,
There you are. Come on in here. I want an explanation.
okay.
Come on in here right now.
Can you teach me to fly?
Lucy,
Oh,
of all the crazy things that you've done in the 15 years that we've been married, this has really...
Cargill, you mean to say that you've been married to her for 15 years?
Yeah, 15 years.
Then they call me Superman.
Don't miss the next thrill-packed episode in the amazing adventures of Superman. Superman is based on the original character appearing in Superman magazine.
In 1 minute, we will reveal the answer to last week's trivia question, this week's question, and a preview of the final 2 quarterfinal games. Welcome back. Before we reveal the answer to last week's question, take one final look at the following chart. We did point out that each pair of characters were voiced by the same person. However, we also pointed out that there was something more about these pair of characters. And here's the answer. Not only were they voiced by the same person, they used the same voice. For certain voice actors, it's not that uncommon to use the same voice for different characters, especially if they have voiced many characters over the years. Now for this week's question. After that brain buster we asked last week, this week's question will be much easier. The category is the price of grooming. The degree of difficulty is rookie. You've heard the following sound. Da 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 da. It's one of the oldest gags in the animation book. And as it was pointed out in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, no cartoon character can resist it. We're talking about the old shave and a haircut gag. According to the gag, a shave and a haircut cost 2 bits. The question is, how much is 2 bits? Is the correct answer A, 50 cents, B, 75 cents, C, 25 cents, or D, $1? We'll have the answer for you next week. And that will wrap things up for Week 13 of the USCFL's 2024 season. This week is both Canada Day and Independence Day, and we wish you all a happy and safe holiday. This weekend, the USCFL will celebrate the 4th of July late, as we will talk about and present the highlights of Game 27 between the Hanna-Barbera All-Stars and the Warner Brothers All-Stars, as they will renew the 3rd oldest rivalry in the league from Philadelphia, and the highlights of Game 28 between the Marvel Comics All-Stars and the defending champion DreamWorks All-Stars from Seattle, along with another player profile in the USCFL. And until Sunday, this is Robbie Graham of the USCFL Network wishing you peace. Take care and stay safe, especially for the 4th of July.
All the characters and franchises mentioned throughout this webcast remains the copyright of their respective owners. They were used for the purpose of entertainment and or education, and therefore no breach of any copyright laws were intended. This webcast is protected under copyright and must not be rewritten, re-recorded, rebroadcast or re-uploaded in whole or in part without the prior written consents of First and 10 Productions, the American Association of Animation, and the United States Cartoon Football League. Copyright 2024.
Pick up your copy of my new book, Fashion Girl 3.0, available on Amazon, iTunes, Barnes & Noble's website, and other sites where books are sold. The fourth book of the Fashion Girl series and the first full-fledged novel. Read about and meet Daphne Sandra Bates, daughter and granddaughter of the previous Fashion Girls, as she becomes the third woman to be called Fashion Girl. Follow Miss Bates as she learns what it takes to be a superheroine, her trials and tribulations, her presentation to the world, her final mission, and a final battle with her mother that makes this a must-read coming-of-age story for mature readers over 18 years of age. The paperback version sells for $20.99 US. The hardcover version sells for $43.99 US because of the extra material used, and $7.99 US in digital format. Buy your copy of Fashion Girl 3.0 today. Fashion Girl is an intellectual property of the United States Cartoon Football League.